So I lost a little time because of that. But eventually I just learned that, oh, there's some errors on these maps and I'll just have to hike whatever I find, and I stopped losing time.
Oh, wow. Jeez. So now, as far as, the trail and it being marked, you're going through so many different sections, and there's definitely not, it's not marked with TransADK Route trail markers, even though, I've seen Eric stickers around at various points around the Adirondack Park. So people have slapped stickers up there. But for as far as like trail markers go, you're going through so many different areas with totally different trail markers. So were the trails, when you're on an actual trail, you just kind of had to know, okay, this is a snowmobile trail, and then I'm going to go on to X trail, which, is a DEC trail, so there'll probably be trail markers there. Is that kind of how you had to think when you were going, or was there actually areas where there were TransADK stuff visible from time to time?
Oh, very good point. There's actually no TransADK trail markers. It's a route, so it's kind of a collection of trails.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, you do follow the Northville Placid Trail, which is really well marked. But all the others, some are marked, some are just pretty obscure
Sure.
snowmobile trails. So no markers, there's just a trail.
Yeah, you just have to know what you're looking for at that point. And for you people who don't know, so there is a guidebook. It is called Blue Line to Blue Line, the official guide to the Trans Adirondack Route. It is a must-have if you're going to hike this trail. Buy the guidebook along with the maps that go with it. Eric has done an amazing job putting together the map and the whole route. And the guidebook it's super pro. It's awesome. Very informative. And he has it broken down into 7 sections. There's the far north section, the northern mountains, the high peak section, the cold river country section, the lake country, big wilderness, and the foothills. And each of those sections are broken down into different maps, and there's a total of 26 maps, each on one page. So it's really well put together. But that can really give you an idea as to what you're getting yourself into beforehand. And from reading it myself, very detailed, and it's a must-have. So I'm going to be going along through these maps right now as we discuss the trail. So Marilyne's going northbound, and I'm on the last map, number 26. So we're going north now. So do you remember where you stayed day one, or do you remember anything in particular about day one?
So the one I stayed close to Road 10. It would be north of Good Luck Lake if you have it on your map. I unfortunately don't have the original maps anymore. I did buy them and they were super useful for the trail, same for the guidebook. But north of Good Luck Lake, there's some point where the trail actually is pretty close to Road 10, and that is where I spent my first night. I covered 20 miles for the first day.
That's a big first day for someone who's just trying to just kind of ease into and check out the trail. 20 miles, big day. Very nice.
I had been hiking for a couple months that year, though, so it was an okay day overall. There were no bushwalking section that day, which helps cover more miles.
Sure, of course.
That day in that region, the trails, it's unlikely you'll see anyone else. Not a region of the Adirondack that's one of the most popular, if I could say. It was really beautiful, though, lots of lakes. One thing I do remember is during the night, that first night, of course, I hadn't been sleeping on my own for a couple of weeks at that point, so a little more nervous than usual. And in the middle of the night, there was this animal, and I was never able to identify it, that kept running around in the forest and being super noisy, and I was so scared. I couldn't wait for the night to be over.
Interesting. An animal running around your campsite in the middle of the night making noise, but it just was running around. That's all that was happening, you're saying?
Yeah, not necessarily around my tent, but like close by me in the forest, making lots of noise. And I had my earth sack bear bag secured on a tree, and I was sure it was going to go for it, but the next morning it didn't seem like anything had touched it. So I'm not sure what the deal was there, and I'm not sure what the animal was, unfortunately.
Fascinating. All right, cool. So 20 miles into day one, and you had an interesting day on night one. So then when you woke up day 2, I assumed, especially after your night, you probably got a pretty early start.
I did, a little tired that day, and I was going to have my first bushwalking section not too long after I started. So the trail kind of follows Road 10 for a while, and then eventually there's a trail called Jokey Bush Outlet that goes directly west. And from there, you have to kind of avoid some private land. You have to do a short bushwalk section to reach another trail that's called Clock Mill Corners Trail. Short section, it was the first one, uphill. Went well in general. I used my compass, took a bearing, and was able to find the next trail pretty easily. I do remember meeting 2 guys on the Jockey Bush Outlet Trail that were going fishing. And when they saw me, I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going that way, pointing at the forest. And they really seemed to think I was completely crazy.
Sure. With a backpack just going into the woods somewhere that's clearly not a trail meant to go into the woods to. Totally.
Exactly.
So how'd that first bushwhack go? Obviously you made it, so it was a success, but how did it go in your mind? Successful, or were there issues?
It was short enough that it wasn't too stressful. And I mean, in that area, there's roads all around, so it's very unlikely that she would get completely lost. And just looking at kind of the elevation of the region I had to cross, I was able to find the next trail pretty easily. So it was a positive first experience. It gave me confidence for the next sections that were coming up that would be slightly longer.
Great. Very cool. Now, was there a reason that you hiked this trail northbound versus southbound, or was it that's just the way you chose to do it?
It was really pick up and drop off
Sure.
logistics. I could find someone that would drop me off at the time I wanted. And then I wasn't sure exactly when I would finish, and I convinced my mom to cross the border and come pick me up whenever I would tell her. She had just retired at that point, so it was easier to convince her. And it's easier to convince someone if it's an hour away from Montreal than 5 hours.
Certainly. Cool. So you made that bushwhack, and then you continued going north. So how far did you go on day 2, roughly?
On day 2, I covered 21 miles. After that bushwalk, you went up on a trail, then you do some road walking. And then it's funny because you're walking on this road, and of course, Eric won't just let you walk the whole road. He wants you to get back in the wilderness as soon as possible. And you're on this road as long as there's private land. And then as soon as you hit wild forest, he makes you go back in the forest. And it's actually quite the detour for like a stretch of road that would be a pretty short road walk. But anyways, close to Piseco Lake, you have to kind of dive back in the forest, try to follow the boundary of the what is it called, the wilderness area. And there's trees that are marked there, but it's pretty dense bush, and it was so hard to follow. And I was just trying I think it was trees with blue paint, to find the trees with the blue paint, but I kept losing them because it was too thick for me to go where I wanted. And anyways, at the end, you eventually rejoin a trail that brings you to the Northville Placid Trail. But that whole section's pretty short, but took a lot of time to actually figure it out. It's all around Piseco Lake. And then from there, you follow kind of So from there, you rejoin the Northville Placid Trail, and there's a short roadwalk section on the NPT. So you just follow that until it hit, I think it's Haskell Road, and then goes back in the forest.
So I didn't realize this until I got the guidebook and the maps and started browsing it. I assumed that this whole trail does the entire Northville Placid Trail, but it actually doesn't. It only goes to Piseco, and then it's a different stretch of trails at that point, which I found surprising that Eric didn't just utilize the entire Northville Placid Trail, but that was news to me. So if you're listening and you think it's a large portion of the Northville Placid Trail, but only to Piseco. And then you're on your own and on other trails, as we just mentioned and just went through. But now we've made it to the Northville Placid Trail in Piseco, so I would imagine you're going to really crush some miles at this point. Not that you haven't already.
Well, you follow the trail for a while, but eventually you get off it. But anyways, I spent the night there. There's a campground on the north side of Piseco Lake called Adirondack Inn. I made it there, and a shower sounded nice. So I was the only one in this campground. Paid some fee, had a shower, relaxed there. It was really nice. I was able to charge my phone. So really enjoyed that place.
Very cool. Much needed at that point. So now you got to Piseco Lake on day 2. Is this correct? Are we still on day 2?
We're still on day 2.
Yeah. So yeah, you're cruising right now. So you stayed at the campground day 2. So obviously it must have been a much better night's sleep than day 1.
Yes, absolutely.
Totally. So then you woke up at the campground day 3. What was your plan for today, or what was day 3 like?
Day 3, you followed the NPT for a while, and then of course Eric's not gonna make it easy for you. So around Cedar Lakes, there's a whole section that actually takes a while because there's more bushwalking, where you get off the NPT to eventually rejoin it.
Oh, okay, I didn't realize that. Interesting.
Yep, and it's a very beautiful section. So even though I don't think I was always happy with the way things were going, but after doing the whole thing, I was really happy to have seen that region of the Adirondacks. So you follow the NPT for, I don't know how many miles, but I said the whole morning. You pass Spruce Lake, and then you get to the junction close to the West Canada Creek lean-to. And that's where instead of going west, you go east. There's another trail there that goes towards Sampson Lake. I actually stayed at a Sampson Lake lean-to. Staying in the lean-to sounded really nice. It was a beautiful lake when I got there. Got there quite early. I only did 17 miles that day. Stayed at the lean-to. There were loons going on all night. I really enjoyed my stay there.
Okay, yeah, I'm looking at the maps right now. So if you're following along on the map or looking around, we are on map number 20 right now, which is you'll see Mud Lake, you'll see the West Canadas and Spruce Lake and whatnot. But yeah, so you'll see where the trail completely skips the NPT and just goes hard east over to Sampson Lake. So how was the night at the lean-to there?
Enjoyed it at some point, although in my dreams I managed to, because loons were going on all night, and at some point during the night I was dreaming, and I started dreaming that the loons I was hearing were actually coyotes. So I don't know how I convinced myself of that. I guess it's being alone in the woods and being afraid a little bit. So I didn't sleep another part of the night, unfortunately. But I really liked this lean-to and this location. The lake was beautiful in the morning.
Sure.
I do not regret staying there at all.
It does seem odd that you would confuse in your brain the loons with the coyotes. It seems like there's such different sounds, and the loons are just such a beautiful sound. But I could understand after all night long it would probably get old as well, and it would start to sound like different things. Cool.
And it was all night long over there.
Wow, interesting. Not just in the morning, because when they wake you up in the morning, it's like the perfect wake up here in the Adirondacks. It's like the textbook what you would imagine. But yeah. I was on the Northville Placid Trail very recently, and I had one night of owls back and forth across the lake when I was at Spruce Lake, actually, so not too far from here. Just the entire night, there was just 2 owls going back and forth, back and forth. That got old real quick to me, but yeah, I understand the feeling. So Spruce Lake,
I believe that.
Or so Sampson Lake lean-to was the end of day 3 for you.
Yes.
So you had the loons all night that night. Okay, so day 4, we're still not on the Northville Placid Trail, but you're continuing in some very probably low-traveled wilderness at this point.
Yes, absolutely. So you keep going west for a while, and then there's some trails that are, I don't know what they're called. I don't even know if they have a name, but wilderness trails. Very poor, not marked at all, I would say. After going east a while, you go west back towards Whitney Lake. and I got to Whitney Lake, and there's actually a canoe there, which was unexpected.